Smoking cigars and they're drinking their brandy in the White House and down at number 10. Halfway around the world, they're counting the moments left to live while they wait for the end. In Fairford in England, a dozen B-52s have taken to the air as they wait for the planes to come, as they wait for the bombs to fall with surgical precision. Are we going to kill them all?
It's not Saddam Hussein, it's not the military who are dying. There's the very old and the very weak. The US military don't need to be here. They can refuel in England, they're merely pissing out their territory, and getting Ireland complicit in this genocide. And it's important to come to places like this that look so normal. Today, I saw a US Hercules being refueled at this airport. And you can treat that as business as usual or normal. You can treat that as a complicit act in the ongoing war against the poor. What's at the end of those runways and the end of those planes is a lot of dead kids. Okay, they're the ones who die.
The 5 people arrested in connection with this morning's incident at Shannon are 22-year-old Damien Moran, currently studying for the priesthood, along with fellow peace activists Kieran O'Reilly, 42, Nuan Dunlop, 31, Karen Fallon, 30, all from 53 Rialto cottages in Dublin, and Deirdre Clancy, aged 32, of Castle Avenue in Clontarf, Dublin. The charges against them follow an incident at Shannon Airport this morning in which further damage was caused to a US naval plane. The plane had been parked at a hangar after damage, estimated to cost over €500,000, was caused to it in another attack last Wednesday morning. Gardaí seized a number of weapons, including lump hammers, an axe brief, cutting pliers and spray paint, when they made the arrest this morning.
To resist is to exist. And that if you're not resisting, how can you be sure that you've found a place in the world? By far the most important byline that I've ever produced is the one that's on the cover of a book about the pit stop Plowshares.
So it takes a lot of balls to cross that fence. Once you make the decision and you go through with it and stuff, you never know what the consequences are going to be.
The Cabinet has been discussing the security situation at Shannon Airport in the wake of a request by the Garda Commissioner for military support to protect it. The issue is also likely to be raised in the Dáil this afternoon. The Garda request followed 2 security breaches in less than a week by people protesting against the use of the airport by American forces.
Martin Luther King, who warns us that we are confronted by a choice between non-violence and non-existence.
peaceful Bunratty, the place of tourism, friendliness and welcome, to Shannon, where there are unfortunately a huge number of unwelcome visitors. Around 2.5 million US troop movements illegally through Shannon in contravention of the neutrality of the country of Ireland, and in furtherance of policies which every day become more clearly disastrous in hatred and destruction and violence spreading around the world.
We're opposed to this war. We're opposed to Ireland's implication in wars all over the world. And today's protest was a demonstration of our continuing opposition to the sale of Ireland's sovereignty.
When Irish hearts are happy, all the world seems bright and gay.
Truth is really glaring in this context, and it's really obvious to anybody with eyes in their head that what the Irish state is living is a lie. We're living a lie as a state, saying that we're neutral on the one hand and yet behaving as if we're a belligerent on the other.
True love Erin's dead and gone. She died in my arms today. All the old songs float on the breeze, remind me how we used to be. All the great martyrs who died will haunt the halls of Leinster House and the door. And the souls that never rest till Ireland is free of the lies and greed and tyranny.
So we're here in Limerick, and it's around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're just in the final stage of preparation for doing an action in Shannon Airport, myself and Colin. I think what both of us have in common around this action is it's a faith-based action, which means that the reason we're here is because of our faith. And it's because of the value, I think, that we place on human life. And the fact that the US military continue to use Shannon Airport, a military that has been responsible for the deaths of so many innocent men, women and children, it demands a faith response, and that's why we're here. To make that statement within the confines of Shannon Airport, that Shannon Airport should not be given over to the US military for their illegal wars and for their immoral wars. And what we would call on is for the Irish government to withdraw permission so that our complicity in these acts of aggression would stop.
I try to follow the command of Jesus to love neighbour as self, and for me the Iraqis, the Yemenis, the Syrians who are being slaughtered are my neighbours. I am also aware of the European Union's rejection of the refugees to a large extent who are fleeing these wars, and I feel we are complicit in creating the misery that has led those refugees to flee their homelands, and yet when they come to Europe they find borders being closed against them. And then finally, in this year, the centenary of 1916, I would like to honour the men and women and children of 1916 who lost their lives to free this country from the murderous empire which was ruling half the world at that time.
Tony Pierce and Connolly, 98 and 16. For war died sons of Roisin, brought children to take to the sea. All the great martyrs who died will haunt the halls, Leinster House and the door. And the souls that never rest till Ireland is free, the lies and greed and tyranny.
were able to get actually quite close, and you can see here how close we actually were to the Learjet. Walking inside the perimeter of Shannon Airport was incredibly surprising. We had so much time before we were challenged.
I think the army guys who came out of the jeep are staggering out of their sleep.
On the right hand side here you can see the army finally responding to the fact that we were inside the perimeter of the airport. At that stage then they told us not to advance any further, which we complied with.
I must say I was petrified in the hour or so leading up to arriving to the airport, and especially arriving at the airport, because I was afraid that we weren't going to be able to manage to get through the fence. Once inside, we felt very relaxed. I could not believe that we could saunter for the best part of 3/4 of an hour across an airport with two important military and CIA planes there, without anybody coming near us.
Shortly after then, things sort of swung into motion and the airport police were notified. First of all, to the army, we requested that they search the plane because we had reason to believe that it was complicit in the act of war crimes. They declined the request. We asked the airport police, seen here arriving, similarly, if they would search the aircraft, as we had reason to believe that it was complicit in war crimes. They too refused, and we also requested at this stage from the Gardaí who were present for them to search the airplane, and they also refused the request. Yeah, as a result of the action then we were charged with criminal damage without lawful excuse. In the court in Gort it mentioned that further charges may follow, so that's the current situation. I think it's important to stress at this stage in declining the request to search this aircraft, all three security forces were in gross dereliction of their duty to protect the lives of innocent civilians. This aircraft on the apron that we had attempted to search but were prevented from doing so was very likely to be involved in these crimes. We were prevented, and the requests that we made both to the Army, Garda Síochána and Airport Police all were declined, likewise to search.
I found it all a bit eerie how an airport could be so lax in security, with a very special CIA command communications and the Learjet on the tarmac.
I've been in the Middle East both as a military peacekeeper and promoting democracy and election monitoring. I've seen the wars in the Middle East. I've seen the people killed. My estimate of the number of innocent children killed by US-led wars in the Middle East is somewhere between probably 500,000 and 1 million, going back from the first Iraq war in 1991 right up to the Iraqi sanctions, which killed almost 250,000, if not more, and it's ongoing as we speak. At the present time, there is a new attack on Fallujah, the third attack on this city, supported by American bombing, happening as we speak. Some of the planes supporting that attack are probably going to Shannon Airport, possibly including the ones that are there right now. So it's primarily to stop Ireland's complicity in US wars in the Middle East, and in particular to stop the totally unjustified killing of children.
My hat was only confiscated just as we were about to be brought to the court, but I asked for my hat back and they said no, they were retaining it as evidence.
And I remember the most nervous time for me was actually driving along in the car before we arrived at the fence, and I was really touch and go at that stage. I said, this is really a bit beyond the beyonds. But anyway, we got under the gate and we got through the fence, and once I got inside the actual airport confines itself, an amazing peace descended.
I knew nothing about direct action, absolutely zilch. I was into protest in a big way, and then I met the pit stop Plowshares and Kieran O'Reilly, and it's been a learning experience for me about direct action and all that, but I'm a slow learner, so it took me 13 years to actually aspire to doing anything with Dave.
Some walked and walked and walked. They walked the earth, They walked the waters, they walked the air. Why do you stand, they were asked, and why do you walk? Because of the children, they said, and because of the heart, and because of the bread. Because the cause is the heart's beat, and the children born, and the risen bread.
These fictions that the state puts out about the planes that go through Shannon Airport, that they're not armed, they're not going to a theatre of war, that's still the prevailing fiction.
Kieran mentioned about it, it can be a demoralising and a demeaning experience, and that's the whole point of it. It hasn't worked with me because I actually find it, in its own way, absolutely fascinating to come up so close to really the forces of empire and to have a look at them closely in the face. It is a war when you walk into a courtroom, I find. There's a propaganda war in terms of the work that has to be done to put those arguments together as to precisely why is it wrong for the US military to use Shannon Airport.
This airport has lost any status as a civilian institution. The railway lines that led to the town of Auschwitz were built for civilian use like this airport was. But they were demonised and changed and became a pit stop on the assembly of death, and that is what Shannon Airport is today.
These are the hammers that we used at Shannon Airport to disable a US Navy warplane en route to an illegal and immoral invasion of Iraq. Two of these hammers have long histories. These two were used at the beginning of the war in Iraq in 1991, the first Gulf War. Bill Strite and Sue Frankel, Moana Cole and I disabled a B-52 bomber and began to take up the runway in upstate New York. So they've been passed on to different groups who disabled the war machine. So they're often passed around the jury during trial. So they haven't been put beyond use. They're still available for disarmament. Yeah, they've got a long, beautiful history, so I guess they're like relics, really.
The silence of the night is broken by the sirens as they gather to prepare for the end. And when the ground starts shaking, you'd be forgiven for mistaken if you thought for a moment this is hell. The enemy is not the soldier in the other trenches, or the soldier with his gun to your head. For he is just a pawn, and he'll kill you for his wages, and his uniform protects him from the shame.
The decision of this jury should be a message to London, Washington DC and the Dáil that Ireland wants no part in waging war on the people of Iraq. Refueling of US warplanes at Shannon Airport should cease immediately.
Neutrality should be kept, it should be held. It's something that's really precious and it shouldn't be gotten rid of. They're making moves to get rid of the Irish neutrality. The Irish people are saying no. What we did was right, and what other people feel need to do will be right too.
All life is sacred. Every life, without exception, has something sacred in it. That means every life of every person in Iraq is as sacred as every life of every person in the United States and in Ireland.
I want to call on all sectors of civil society in Ireland, especially the trade unions, to provide resources for their workers who want to dissent, who want to stop the complicity in war making in Ireland, to stop the refueling of the planes, to stop patting them on the back as they go out to wage war in Iraq. And this is, as Deirdre said, the conscience of the Irish community has spoken, and we call on the Irish government to seize this illegal activity, because what our act was 3.5 years ago was legal.